Hey, what's up, anime fans? This is your boy Rayshawn from the Rayshawn Gatson Anime Podcast, or GAT for short. And today we have a special episode. We're going to be interviewing a veteran voice actor who is known for The Ice Braid Sorcerer Shall Rule the World, Beast Tamer, The Fist of the North Star, and The Prince of Tennis. We're going to be asking him about the voiceover industry and also about his personal life and how you can get into the industry. But before I introduce my guests, don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you're listening. If that has sparked your interest, then sit back and enjoy the ride. Before we get started, I want to allow my guests the opportunity to introduce themselves. Tell everyone where you're from and what you do. And also tell us a random fact we wouldn't be able to just Google.
Okay. Well, my name is Kevin D. Thelwell. I am a voice actor. I'm also an assistant director. I work a lot in ADR, in anime, and video games, all the like, but most of my work is with anime. Like I said before, I've worked on a whole lot of shows. I play characters like Zeus in One Piece, Kita in Haikyuu, Loki in Blue Lock, and I've been like leads of a lot of shows like Girlfriend, who just had a season 2 that ended like a couple months ago, Beast Tamer, Ice Blade Sorcerer Shall Rule the World, Am I Actually the Strongest, etc., etc. So, I've been around a bit. I've assistant directed for shows like Gundam, The Witch of Mercury, My Clueless First Friend, the 100 Girlfriends Who Really, 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 really love you, and a whole bunch of other shows as well. So yeah, I have a lot of fun in this industry. A fact that might not be on Google. Let me see here. I don't know. Favorite color is blue. Favorite breed of dog is Huskies. They're amazing.
Okay. I like some Huskies. My favorite breed would probably be Pit Bulls, but that's just probably because them the only dogs I've ever really been around. But Huskies, I like Huskies. Before we get into like the nitty gritty of the whole interview and everything, I just want to ask you, are you into anime and manga and stuff like outside of voice acting? Like, are you really into the actual art of it?
Oh, definitely. Like, for me personally, I probably wouldn't be doing this if I didn't like anime, you know? So I love the stuff that I loved, like reading a whole lot. I loved like watching a lot of shows growing up, and I decided, hey, I wanted to do something that like, I could have fun with and not ever have it feel like it's work. So that's why I chose this profession.
That's amazing. So when did it start? So what was that anime that actually sparked your interest as a teenager or a kid, whenever it started?
Man, I started off like everybody else, watching like, the 4Kids, CW and all that. So you got your Pokemon, your Yu-Gi-Oh, your Digimons and all that. I was a massive, massive Power Ranger fanatic. So I've seen like nearly every series up until like the last decade or so. And that just really sparked my interest in like being a creative in sorts. So I've done things like I've been a musician. I like to write. I do a lot of stuff. I don't think I don't really do is art all that much. Hands just don't do that for me. But it's something that I didn't think that I could ever do at first because I'm a massive introvert. I don't really like being perceived by people when I don't have to be per se. So I'm like, I never want to like go on stage and learn in theater and all that. That stuff was just, it was not for me. But then like later on in life, when I was in like college and stuff, I realized, voice acting is an option where I could still be, real big and animated, but I've got that barrier of a microphone that I can mess with, or like, a recording booth where I don't necessarily have to be in front of a crowd of people in order to, do that kind of creative stuff. So I started like doing my research, getting advice about it, taking classes, going all over the place. And like, I started getting laser focused in college when I was like, 18, 19 on how to, get into the voice acting industry.
Wow. I like that you brought up like being an introvert, because that's like part of me too. I'm an introvert, and I actually started this podcast trying to be able to talk more to people, try to get more experience and stuff. So I like that you brought that up. One thing I thought is also interesting is that you're in the new anime Sandland. I don't know if you are into the news of anime, but recently Toriyama died. I just want to ask you, how did that make you feel when you heard that news? Or were you a big Toriyama fan before that or before Sandland?
Yeah, no, I'm a massive Dragon Ball fan. There was just entire summers that me and my buddies in like middle school and high school would just like hole up in somebody's house or room and plug in the Wii and play like DBZ, Budokai Tenkaichi 3, like just all day, all night. I love Dragon Ball. I've sat down and like rewatched all of Dragon Ball and Z and GT in like entire marathons, going through all of the series. And so I really like Toriyama's work is just amazing. It's great. And it set a culture for like everyone in America, Japan, like all over the world. So it's a massive loss to see him pass away. And it really sucks, especially like right as Sandling was just about to come out and he passed away right before that. So that's really sad.
Yeah, I'm glad he was able to put in that a whole year into making that anime. Because I did think it was weird that he did take a year off from Dragon Ball to like work on Sandland, because I didn't know anything about it until like his recent passing. That's when I actually started to look more into it. So it's a pretty decent anime. And I haven't read the manga yet, but just from a few episodes, I've seen just the whole idea of like an emperor taking all the water, and the whole demon clan is basically going to be the heroes of it. It's a whole different idea from your whole normal Dragon Ball Z, and to see like Toriyama had different storytelling attributes to himself is actually pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a really good thing. I just love the Toriyama art style and everything too. And yeah, Sandland is such a pretty show. The CG is so great.
Were you able to get into voice acting in any Dragon Ball or anything?
The only Dragon Ball thing that I've touched at the moment is I did some soldiers in DBZ Kakarot. Was it the Bardock DLC I was in?
Okay.
Yeah. So while you're, fighting through Frieza, you'll beat up some guys who sound like me.
All right. Now back to today's episode. We're going to be diving into the world of voice acting and learning more about the behind the scenes and how you can get started in voice acting, while also learning and celebrating the career of Kevin Thelwell. My first question: when did voice acting become something you wanted to pursue? And were you afraid of the new challenge?
Well, first, yes, definitely afraid of the challenge. But like I was saying back in schooling in general, like because I was like, not really into the whole theater scene at first, my art chosen was music. So I was in band for all of middle school, all of high school, and then I went into college as well for band. And it just got to a point where when I was getting to like the real professional industries for music, I realized it just wasn't for me. A lot of the vibes out there, a lot of the people just weren't really meshing with me. I didn't feel like I was having fun anymore when I got down to the serious nitty gritty. So I decided, hey, like I got to figure out other things to entertain myself, to have fun. So I started like making little YouTube videos online with my buddies and just having a lot of fun, doing like parody infomercial stuff and videos and just having a really good time. And I always had people like tell me, like at my day job at the time, I worked at a call center, so like that. People are like, oh, you have a really good voice. You should look into like voiceover acting, something like that. I'm like, yeah, whatever. That's something people say all the time. And this one YouTuber that I was subscribed to at the time, where I really enjoyed his work, he had like a book that he wrote that he was turning into an animation, and he was holding like community auditions for people to voice in it. So I auditioned for that, and then they're getting a contract. The thing never ended up coming out, but I ended up getting a contract in my first audition. I'm like, oh wow, that's crazy. And I looked at who else like got cast in it, and I saw a bunch of big named like LA and anime voice actors in there, and I'm like, oh shoot, what the heck? I got a contract when all the big shots are in there. That's crazy. Like maybe I should look into this. So I started just looking into voiceover as a whole, like looking into commercial, looking into anime, looking into all sorts of stuff like that. It was definitely kind of daunting because my best friend, his cousin was also a voice actor, who you may have heard of before. His name is Alejandro Saab, and he's always big, but he's pretty big at the time. And I'm like, oh man, I don't want my buddy to think that I'm just copying his family members and all that. So let me just hide this for a while and practice on the side, and so he doesn't find out. And then I can't remember what happened, but one day my boy was grilling me, and then he ended up squeezing it out of me that I was like starting voice acting. He's like, "What? You're doing voice acting? Hold on, I'm calling my cousin right now. He's gonna give you all the advice in the world." I'm like, "No, wait, calm down." And he pulled me into a Skype call like we're in right now, and sat down. He gave me a bunch of advice saying, "Hey, you live in Florida right now. Like, I came from Florida, but I had to move from Florida to Texas to start doing like anime and stuff like that. So you might need to look at this. It's hard. You got to do all these classes, do all that." And I'm like, "Hey, I'm prepared to do that." So I worked really hard. As an introvert, going out and meeting new people is kind of difficult for me. But wanting to be an actor, I kind of forced myself to go out of my comfort zone. Everyone's journey is different, but I was lucky in the fact that, I had my best friend who had his cousin who can give me the advice starting out directly, but also my mom works for an airline. So back then when I was younger, I was actually able to fly for free on her employee pass. So
okay, that's nice.
Yeah. So whenever there was an acting workshop or something like that going on in New York or Texas, there were some days where I'll be like, okay, I'll move my shift for work in the morning, do a whole shift of work, then get on a plane immediately after work, fly over to Texas, do a class, then the next morning fly back to Florida so I could go back and do work the next day. And I did that for weeks at a time, depending on what class I do. Some classes were a whole month long. So it'd be let's say every Wednesday for 4 Wednesdays straight. So I would fly in once a week to Texas to do that because I was hitchhiking on planes doing it for free. So there'll be times that we're sitting in a classroom and everybody yeah, I drove 30 minutes to get to this class. Oh, well, I drove an hour. Oh yeah, I drove 4 hours from Houston. And I'm like, I flew in from Miami this morning. And they're like, what?
And I'm leaving right after class to go back because I got to work. I'm like, what?
Exactly. Yep. I did that for a while. When I went to classes in New York, thankfully I had family in New York. So I would just go crash at my grandma's place for a couple days, go up there, do my class, come back, hanging around, see the family a little bit, and then go right back. There was a convention or something in town, I might go there and have a little fun out there. But yeah, I would do that a lot. So that was definitely something, but it was something that was I don't know, it was scary going to different places that I wasn't super familiar with, but I had the drive to go come out of my comfort zone and do that stuff. And it helped me really grow as a person. I even flew out for just different little amateur voice acting competitions, different studios was having. I think Sentai Filmworks had open auditions in San Antonio once that I flew out to San Antonio, Texas to do from Florida. Bang Zoom had open auditions in Chicago at Anime Central that I had a friend who was oh wow, they're doing a voice acting competition and the winner gets to be in an anime. And I'm like, what? Where? Chicago. And I'm like, when? Tomorrow. I'll be there right now. I'm like, what? I will be there right now. And I hung up the phone, call my mom and scheduled a flight, called my dad and I'm like, hey dad, I'm going to Chicago in the morning. See you on Monday. And he's like, what? Bye. Be call my work. I'm like, hey, gotta call out. I'll be back on Monday. Goodbye. And,
dang, they were that lenient?
Thankfully, with the jobs that I've had, I gave 200% at every job I've had. So they were pretty flexible with me. If I had something that I'm super passionate about, they're like, all right, we'll give Kevin a pass because when Kevin's here, Kevin does the whole work. He's carrying things on his back. So we'll give him the pass when things are, when he's got passions that he wants to work on. So yeah.
Okay. So I work ethic gives you a little bit of a pass. That's what you're trying to say.
Yeah. Not, definitely not for every job, but I was just fortunate enough that, my bosses at the job that I've had were, were nice enough and appreciated my work ethic enough to where they gave me a lot of passes on that. My last job that I just left, I was there 5.5 years. And my first anime role at Funimation, I got that gig the same month that I got hired with that company. So I was in basic training with that job. And being hey, I gotta go for like 2 hours. I gotta drive 30 minutes that way. I'll be back in like an hour. So can I do that? And they're like, allow it. I'm like, cool. And I would shoot there, do my acting gig, and come back and clock back in and continue doing my training of work and stuff like that. Or some days I would split my shift in half and like come in earlier, work a few hours, go leave, do my acting gig, and then come back and finish out my shift. Like, I was doing double duty. It's crazy.
Did you ever explain to them that that's what you were doing? Like, I'm a whole voice actor on the side type thing.
At first, I'll be like, I have an appointment. But then, like, once I was we with the company longer and longer, once I was super comfy with my managers, I'd be like, hey, dude, I got an acting thing. I got to go to that. And they're like, say less. And I was just kidding.
Okay. They probably felt a little better. They was like, I just thought you were sick.
Yeah.
Well, I thought something you kept saying, but was interesting. So were you getting hotels, or how were you doing that? Were you affording hotels or every time you went there, or were you leaving like soon as the acting thing was done and went back home?
Oh, I was getting hotels. Yeah, I would Uber to the places, and then I would get like a Motel 6. Like when I was doing that weekly Texas trip for class, this was one of Chris Rager's classes back in like I think 2016. I would just get like a Motel 6, not too far from the class and from the airport. I would actually sometimes I think the hotel would able to be right down the street from the studio they were having the class, and I would just be there for a night and then just have an Uber in the morning and just fly right back to Florida one night real quick.
Okay. So how you're talking. So have you always had a main job and this has been like your side job, or would you say voice acting is your main job and your other stuff being your side job?
Actually, as of Monday, voice acting is now my main gig. Well, it's been my main gig for a couple years now because I was first working at my day job full time for a while, doing a whole bunch of hours on that. Then when things start picking up with acting, I had a conversation. I'm like, hey, this is me working 40 hours a week plus and me doing my acting stuff at the same time. A whole lot of hours is just killing me. So I'm like, I need to take a break. I need to take a leave of absence or something like that. So I went to my boss's boss at the time and I'm like, hey, can I take leave of absence? You're like, for what? And I'm like, I just need life stuff. It's like, not medical. I'm like, no life stuff. I'm like, sorry, can't allow that. And I'm like, oh, that sucks. Well, since everyone around me says that they like my work ethic already, and I've already been told by several P managers that if I quit, I can just come back later. So how about I just like quit maybe for 6 months to a year and we'll see what happens later. Or maybe reapply. It's like, wait. Hold on. How about, we're not supposed to do this, but how about we just give you like a part-time, 4 hours a day? And I'm like, all right, I'll go for it. So I dropped down to part-time for a couple years, and as of like last week or two, well, I think as of this week, technically last week, I am now a full-time voice actor, no side job. So I'm just doing my own thing.
Can I ask you, what field is your side jobs in? Are you like a office worker, work in the hospital field, or?
I don't man.
If you don't want to explain,
No. I'm just saying I'm not like a big college guy. I'm not really studious. I'm not a good student. Okay, not a good student when I'm not interested in the thing. So I don't have any like special degrees and all that. All I got is my high school diploma, barely. And so the jobs that I have excelled at have been like call centers. So I've taken like my first job ever was a call center job, and I ended up really excelling at that job, getting real comfy, really good. I was the kind of guy that was so efficient on the phones that I could pull out my Nintendo Switch in the middle of the call centers to start playing it in between phone calls, but watching an anime on it, and people walk by, hey, what you doing? Oh, just playing Pokemon. Cool. And they just walk by like it's one of the managers because they would know that I'd be on my stuff. So my last job, I was working at it wasn't a call center per se, but I was working at an investment company's office, and I was on the customer service phones for that. So I would just have my little headset on, be walking around. Like during the pandemic, it started that we could work from home a lot more. So I would spend a whole lot of time just working from home. And if I had a voice acting gig, I would just walk downstairs to my house into this booth, do a gig, walk right back upstairs and just jump right back onto the phones. Like, basically as if it was a break after my gig is done or an audition or, what are we doing? So I was multitasking. There were some times where I was helping like training people. And it was so busy that I'll be like doing full 40-hour plus shifts, a week, and having gigs that were acting at home at the same time, overlapping my work shifts. I'll be like on a Zoom call with people training, like, hey guys, I gotta go to the bathroom. I'll be back. Sure. I walk away 2 hours later. Hey guys, I'm back. Oh, cool. We didn't know you were gone. I'm like, nice.
Wow, that's amazing.
So I definitely, busted my butt. Like I would like I would take my work laptop with me, like put it down next to the booth. Like I can't see, but I have glass out here. So I would just like put it outside the booth. And if I got like work ping during a session, I'll just like stick my head out of the booth, type, go back in the booth. Like I was doing both jobs at the same time, man. I was double dipping hard.
I gotta respect your work ethic.
Yeah, hustle, man, hustle.
But my next question, what do you find the most challenging thing about being a voice actor?
The most challenging thing is surviving the slow periods, especially like, as somebody who likes a lot of the stuff that I do. And, being an anime fan is really great working in anime because you know a lot of the stuff. You have a lot of knowledge about stuff and you know what the vibe about how things go generally. The problem is that you also like what you do. So if you don't get parts, it feels real bad. It hurts a lot. So it's a double-edged sword. It's really nice because you're having a lot of fun. You know what you're already doing. And nothing's super foreign to you. But also, most of voice acting is rejection. You got to deal with rejection. Sometimes, you audition for a part, you don't get it. Most of the time, you don't even get to audition for a part. It just never comes up to you. And you just got to live with that. You're like, man, I would totally love to be in X and X series, but I sadly just don't have the connections that would allow me to even be considered for that part. So I have to sit there and just watch it go by.
Wow, that's interesting. I didn't even think so not every role is like auditionable. So you can't just go and just audition. So it's a networking type of industry.
Kinda, yeah. Like some shows are just so fast paced when it comes to things that directors might not even have time to hold auditions. They just be like, I'm going to pick some names out of a hat and throw them at a wall. And hopefully that works out. Like, cause they got like 2-3 days to cast shows sometimes. They just don't have enough time to pick people out for a whole big show, get it scheduled, do this, make sure people are available, all that jazz. And sometimes, like, we have multiple markets. We have the Texas market where Crunchyroll is based doing a lot of shows, but you also have like the New York market, which some stuff is done in. You have the LA market, which is a lot of anime is done with the will. Texas is by far the king of anime, for forever. But LA's got a lot too, video games as well. So sometimes I see a game that I just really like or a show that I just absolutely adore. And if I don't have the specific connection to be able to reach out to that studio that I don't already work with, if I don't already work with them, then, I'm just never going to see that audition. I'll never be considered for it.
So how has rejection, how has that affected you? Like, did it has it ever made you almost want to stop?
I've never gotten to the point where I've considered stopping. I don't know. I'm a pretty hustle oriented guy. So while definitely not the healthiest coping mechanism, but when I do get really in my head about stuff, I'm just not getting the wins I want. I'll be like, all right, it's not the industry that's the problem. It's me. I need to work on me. So I'd start taking more classes, start doing more stuff. I'm like, I need to level up. Which at the end of the day, it's never your fault why these things don't happen. There's so many things out of your control that you just can't help, and I know that, but me just saying it is what it is I can't do that. That'll drive me crazy. So I need to direct that frustration onto something and it just directs back onto myself where I'm like, it's me. I wasn't good enough to be considered. So I need to do something about it to be better. So I'll start taking private coaching, start taking workshops and all that. And that's a money sink. So that might not be again for everyone. Again, that's just my drug of choice to survive rejection. Some people may, crack open a bottle and drink. I'm like, all right, let me get a class from some top industry members so I can try to level up and be better the next time an opportunity comes, be more noticeable, do something, even as we speak to this day, there's still opportunities that I'm missing. And I'm like, all right, I was thinking, what do I got to do to be considered next time? Where do I got to go? Who do I need to stand in front of? Who do I need to make known that I exist? It's real tough out there.
I see you've started a lot of main roles and a lot of them been isekais. Could you tell me the process of getting those roles and your overall experience with those projects?
Well, I think I've only actually been the lead role in one isekai, which is Am I Actually the Strongest? But the kind of pipeline. Yeah.
With Ray White, would that not be considered a main role?
Oh, Ray White's a main role, but Ray White's just a fantasy. He's not in another world. That's his world.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It has that feel, but yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's true.
Ice Blade and Beast Tamer both have that isekai vibe, but yeah, they're just fantasy at the core. But if I were to say kind of the pipeline of how I got all of them, it's gonna be sounding pretty random, but Girlfriend was my first lead role, and that was a show that I saw while it was airing on Crunchyroll in Japan, and it was super super funny, super just a good time going around, like laugh out loud, hilarious. And I'm like, dang, I really love that show. And then I heard, through some grapevines and connections that show was getting dubbed. And I'm like, man, I would really love to audition for that show. But like, I feel like it's already going to be cast that it's getting a dub. I'm just not going to get it and blah, blah, blah. And then one day I ended up and I was also like just not having a good day one week because I was like, all right, I need to get a better agent so I can, get better roles and stuff like that. And like, let me apply to these big agencies. And they're like, sorry, you're not it, chief. And I'm like, hey. Yeah. So I was like also like off of just rejection that day too. And then I got an email from one of the studios, the Studio Nana, who was doing Girlfriend season 1. And she's like, hey, Michelle's like, hey, they're like, we want to offer you the role of the lead character in this show. Disclaimer, this show has very explicit themes. And I'm like, I already know. Say less. I've seen all of season 1. Put me in, coach. So
they just automatically gave you the role? Like you didn't have to audition or anything?
I didn't audition for Girlfriend. It was just, I was lucky that I ended up getting that. And at the week that I was finishing Girlfriend, like we're in episode like 11 or 12 of recording Girlfriend, which I'd recorded all in this booth. I got an email from Crunchyroll and they're like, hey, Sean Gann wants to cast you as this guy, Rain Shroud in Beast Tamer. And I'm like, sure, I'd be happy to accept. Let me Google this guy. Rain Shroud, Beast Tamer. Oh, he's the Beast Tamer. He's John Beast Tamer. What? Oh, shoot. So I started recording Beast Tamer literally the week I finished recording Girlfriend. And the week I finished recording Girlfriend, they confirmed season 2 of Girlfriend. And I'm like, what?
Okay.
Yeah.
So you never know if it's going to be a season 2 until like after the anime's out?
Oh, we never know it's season 2 until Japan says it's going to have a season 2. We did Girlfriend like a year or two after it aired in Japan. So this is a year or two after season 1 ended in Japan. So had we done the dub at the same time as the airing in Japan, this wasn't like a backlog dub, then we wouldn't have known season 2 was coming out until years later. So we just got lucky that I don't even say about lucky. I think what I assume is some people in the higher ups in Japan and Crunchyroll were just like, we're going to make a season 2 of Girlfriend, but we want to expand the audience. Let's dub season 1 before season 2 comes out. So that way, we have stuff to hype up season 2. That's what I'm assuming is going on. I'm not in these rooms for these conversations, but that's what I assume happened. And then, so we were doing Beast Tamer literally right as I finished Girlfriend. And right as Beast Tamer was ending, I got an audition for Ice Blade Sorcerer. And I'm like, all right, let me go audition for all the male characters that are on the side. And I'm like, man, Ray White's really cool. He's already got my blue aesthetic that I really love, and he's basically like a character that I really like Archer Emiya from Fate. I really like that.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and I'm like, his powers are kind of similar to that, and I really love his aesthetic. It would be so cool to book him. And I was literally telling my friends at the time. I was talking to my roommate Alex Mai, and I was talking to our other friend who's also an actor, Emmy Lowe. And I told him in the chat, I'm like, hey, if I book John Iceblade, I'm going to scream. Right before I sent my audition, and I ended up getting the email back. Hey, they want to book you as Ray White. And I'm like, 3 in a row. What? I've never had a lead before. I got 3 in a row. What the heck?
That is amazing. That's a great luck out of nowhere. Was that like all this during kind of close to the pandemic, or was the pandemic over?
Girlfriend was still during. Girlfriend was kind of towards the end of when people were starting to go back into the studios. Beast Tamer, Girlfriend, I did remote. Beast Tamer, I did in studio. Ice Blade was also in studio. And then I know I took they was skip the season, and then I got Am I Actually the Strongest? So I played Haruto, and that was also in that. So that's basically, the quote unquote end of the pandemic was kind of where all of those was landing. Now, Girlfriend was towards the kind of teetering off of it.
All right. Interesting thing about the Ice Blade Sorcerer. I actually interviewed John Stemick, who's actually the brother of Mark Stemick, who's actually the director of that. And could you how was the whole process of working with Mark and everything?
Oh, Marcus is such a cool dude. I really I love how he's somebody else who, when I walk in the room, I'm glad that he's passionate about acting, about theater. He's also super passionate about anime too. And he's so fun to be directed on will be sitting around in the booth, just having the best, like, I don't know, just running gags. We'll make little inside jokes during recording. And we did all of Ice Blade, like, mostly at night recording for that one. So it'll be like late nights. All right, 6 p.m. time for some Ice Blade time. And we would just run through it. And it was just really fun. It was a good time. Marcus is great. Marcus also helped. He was the assistant director for Beast Tamer too. So I had already worked with him.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he did a lot of work on that. Like, he's even directed me on One Piece 2 for Zeus. So Marcus is always really fun. So it's awesome.
Do you think voice actors get enough credit?
I think voice actors get a lot of. I think voice actors get decent credit. Obviously, not as much as, like, theater actors or not in theater, like on camera movie actors and stuff like that. So there's definitely a little bit of discrepancy. I wish was better, but it's whatever. I think for anime specifically, English dub actors definitely get a lot of flack. When as somebody who watches sub and dub stuff, I think they get way too much flack on that. Like, even me as somebody who, if there is an option for me to watch it in English dub, like, as long as I'm not like foaming at the mouth, like, this is the best show ever, I need to watch every episode right now, if I have the patience to like wait, because usually the dub is like an episode or two behind if we're lucky. The sub sometimes the same day, but that's like a rare occasion. But if I can wait for those 2 weeks to, for a new episode to come out, then fine, I'll wait. But if I'm like super patient, love the show too much, then I'll just go ahead and watch it all in Japanese. And I'll be like, I really like this show. I'm going to show a friend this later, and then we're going to watch that in dub, and I'll just rewatch it in dub. Like, I can't tell you, like, I've seen like all of Blue Lock, because I love Blue Lock is my favorite sports anime easily of all time. It's so fun.
You might have been in my favorite one, The Prince of Tennis. I like Blue Lock, but The Prince of Tennis was the first one that actually got into the theme of sports anime.
Yeah.
And also the basketball one too.
Yeah, Kuroko no Basket. Yeah. It's so good. But yeah, like, I've seen all of Blue Lock in sub, and I kid you not, I have rewatched it several times in dub just to show people, just so I can share it with other friends how much I love this show. So I think dub actors put a lot of work into what they do. As somebody who's, been in the booth offering like suggestions to directors, as someone who's been in the director's chair, like, making sure I try to keep things as faithful to the Japanese side as possible, while also still making it fit the mouth flaps we have and make it sound right in English. And it's a collaborative, process between the director, the audio engineer, actor too. The actor, somebody who's comfortable with that series and character, knows what they're doing. Sometimes they'd be like, I don't think this character would really say it like that. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. Let's try to say it in a different way, So there's a whole lot. There's the scriptwriter involved. There's so many cooks in the kitchen, and you just need to make sure they all blend together to make a cohesive setting there. Like, I'm doing a lot of assistant directing on Classroom of the Elite season 3, and that's a show that I've been watching since before I was an actor, watching it in Florida. So the fact that, like, all these years later, I get to help assistant direct on season 3 of the show, and I really loved that show from season 1. It's really great, and I'd be like, hey, I, Koji, might not say it like that, but let's have him say it like this. Let's do it like that, and blah blah blah. Just it keeps us, it helps keep us grounded as the character and keeps it true to what the Japanese side is doing. Yeah, it's a lot of work.
So how did you make that transition of voice acting to like doing more of the directing now? And which side do you kind of like more?
I definitely prefer being in the booth myself, acting, but directing is also super duper fun to do. It's something that I don't really ever want to, trade one for the other, because they're really great. But I do know acting is the main deal, where directing is a really nice side gig too. So yeah, directing was kind of interesting. So during the pandemic, I in my house, I had at the time had 3 other roommates who were all actors too. So when the pandemic was happening, there was a time. It started with My Hero, with one of the My Hero seasons, where the Crunchyroll was starting to record people remote during the start of the pandemic, and we saw them doing that. They made a big promo online and whatnot, and we're like, hey, we have a homemade booth in our house that technically could fit 4 dudes in it. Maybe we could help them with their extra work, their background, their wall and stuff, so they fill out crowds and whatnot. Since, during the pandemic, they weren't really having people record in groups, having them record separately. So we sent, Funimation an email at the time, and they'd be like, hey, you know that we all 4 live together and we're all on your roster already. We worked with you guys before. Do you want us to like help you with the wall or anything like that during the pandemic? And they're like, you guys have a booth? You guys have 4 you have, hold on, we're CCing the producers, we're CCing all the higher ups. We need to make everyone aware of this. And we're like, what? Oh God, no. And then And they took our audio samples and all that, and they're like, we're sold. We need you to record on My Hero right now. Help us fill out these background crowd stuff and all these screaming and all that. And we basically were like the first remote recording house for background stuff as a group ever in anime. And we did it like we were like the only ones doing it at Funimation for like a very long time, until other roommate houses started catching on. Like, wait, they're doing that? Hold on, we gotta do this too. We want to get paid. Hold on. And they all started jumping on it. So we'd touched like basically every show that Crunchyroll, that Funimation had for like 2 years straight. We were on the backgrounds of everything. And it got to a point where like all the directors knew who we were. We started working with that. And some other directors from outside studios that we've done that work too with hit me and my other roommate up one day, and they're like, hey, do you guys want to sit down and watch me direct and kind of, learn how things go? Just shadow and watch. And we're like, yeah, we'll do that. And we sat there and we shadowed for like, I want to say like 8 hours a day, some days for like 5 days, basically 40 hours of shadowing. It was a lot of hours. And we did it. We learned so much from watching all these pro actors, people who've been around longer than us, be in the booth, seeing how the directing style works and everything. And we did it. There was like a month or two break after we did that for a while. And we're like, I feel like we learned a lot from that. We want to watch more. So we emailed that director and like, hey, can we watch more? And it was just no response for a while. And we're like, oh, okay, I guess not. And then we got another email later back. So, hey, I got this project. You guys want to direct it? And we're like,
oh, damn. Okay.
We just kind of got thrown a little bit into the fire for that one. So we ended up working on that project for a while, which sadly didn't end up coming out. But we put blood, sweat, and tears into that. And it was really good. Just other stuff happening that stopped it. But afterwards, I'm like, hey, I got a lot of experience directing and all that. And that was a good time. And I can't remember how long of a gap this was or what the exact chronological order of events was. But I ended up hitting up Crunchyroll and I'm like, hey, I kind of have an itch a little bit to do more directing. Say Crunchyroll, I've directed for a fair amount of hours on a project that's like affiliated with you guys. Can I assistant direct? And they'd be like, oh yeah, you can shadow people. You can, shadow people on our side, see how our method is and like see the ropes about directing. And it was for Blue Lock per se that I saw, and I'm just like, this is before I'd never read the manga for Blue Lock. I never read anything. Just from the promos alone of Blue Lock, I'm like, I am going to love this show. Just from the trailers, this show looks so hype. So I ended up just before the dub came out, I ended up like hitting up the director and for Blue Lock, and I'm like, hey, would totally love to audition for the show if you're going to have auditions or blah blah blah. Like, really really passionate about this show, super into it. Even if I can't audition for the show, totally fine. If I can help you in any way on the show, just touching in some way, shape, or form, that would still be super awesome, just so I can be of use in some way. Even like assistant directing or whatever, and the director would be like, hey, totally love to have you as one of my ADs for the show. Sure. And I'll put you on. And I'm like, sick, awesome. So I ended up covering, like being like backup assistant director, helping cover a little bit on Blue Lock here and there. And that was super fun. And then like, months and months later, I ended up like getting a little audition and getting cast to be Loki in Blue Lock, which is pretty cool because he's a super cool character. And I didn't know he existed until the episode in Japanese came out. I'm like, oh my God, that's just like me for real. What is, got skink and everything, what's going on?
That's what I'm saying, man.
And I'm like, yeah. And I was worried too. And I'm like, oh no, are they going to have like, an accent and stuff like that? I'm like, I don't know if I'm good enough to do an accent and blah, blah, blah. And then I was hanging out with some other friends, some other actors who were also in Blue Lock. And they're like, hey, we have something in an episode. You can totally play that character. And I'm like, oh no, but what about the accents? Like, they're like, nah, dude, you got this. And then I ended up getting the audition, and like several actors that I look up to all before, they were like, hey, you got this, dude, knock it out of the park. And I did it. And I ended up booking the character, and yeah, I'm in the show now. So super duper happy. But yeah, that's how I kind of got into assistant directing, and I'm doing more of it now because like one of my friends, it was like my current director that I'm doing most of ADing for is Helena Wallstrom, and that's somebody that when I was telling the story about how I fly to Texas to do those classes, that's somebody that I first met through some of those classes. I ended up taking some of the classes I flew back and forth, and that actor that I met there ended up like becoming an audio engineer for Funimation, and then eventually getting promoted to be a full-time director at Crunchy, Funimation, blah, blah, blah. So that's somebody that I had already known for years at that point. They're really cool. And they're like, hey, do you want to be my assistant for when I start directing my own shows here at Crunchyroll? And I'm like, heck yeah, I'll help you out. Yeah, let's go.
That's why it's so important to always be nice and courteous to people and network when you can. And that's an amazing you got to get that experience back like that.
Yeah. Crazy.
One thing I wanted to say, I don't know if this was foresight of you, but did you always just have a recording studio to be able to have the opportunity to be the first house? Or?
No, that was actually, ironically enough, my roommate, Alex Mai, he just was really into doing commercial work and really doing a lot of stuff. So he decided to build his own studio out of wood, really good, like homemade studio he built. And he just wanted extra space in his studio just so he could move around in it. And when that stuff was happening, it just so happened that he finished building it like a few months before the pandemic really started. It was fully operational for him. And, we tested it out. I'm like, oh my God, it's a tight squeeze, but it just barely fits 4 dudes in it. So we were able to fit it. And then after saving up money, like I said, doing the double duties of working the full-time day job and doing a lot of the acting work, I was able to afford this baby. And I put this in because I was getting more audition opportunities at the time. And I can't just go and barge into his room and use his booth every time I want to, record a broadcast quality setup or do a gig or something like that. So I'm like, hey, I'm going to invest my own money and build my own setup. So I've got like my own studio bricks here, decked it out with a bunch of sound treating, bought a used microphone off the roommate, got a mic stand, got dual screen monitors here so I can see script on one side and video on the other. Like I got the whole setup here. Roommate,
are you still in the shared house?
Yeah, still in the shared house.
Oh, that's interesting. With the same actors and everything?
Not all the same actors, but me and Alex are still here. My best friend ended up moving in with us, and then we have one other person that moved in with us too, who works with us a lot. One of the engineers here at Crunchyroll. So, okay. It's a mix up, but I'm still in the same house. I've been here for 5 years now.
That's pretty cool. Do you think there's any misconceptions about voice acting?
Yeah, like going back to the original, like there's definitely a misconception that that we have a lot more control over things than we actually do. Like we said, I'll be lucky if I get to audition for a show that I like, let alone actually be cast in it. There's so much luck involved, and people just be like, oh, why don't you work on this show? And I'm like, I would love to if I was considered for it. Y'all are just pointless at me. I'm just like, it hurts. I'm like, oh, listen, I'm glad you guys are thinking of me. I'm glad you guys want me to be it. That's awesome. I want to be in it too. But the question is, are the powers that be, do they want me to be in it? That's the question. So that's a little misconception about how much control and power we have over the stuff that we book. And also it's like, the comparison between like us and the Japanese side, like when you're not fluent in Japanese and fluent in English, you can't really tell the differences between like how a read in Japanese would be or how a read in English would be. Like I see comments of like, oh, the English dub isn't very good and blah, blah, blah. They're not, talking as well as Japanese. And I'm like, bro, like real Japanese people on the streets in Tokyo don't talk like this at all, right? They're doing SpongeBob SquarePants level exaggerations to make it sound more interesting to kids, right? That's what's going on, right? People don't talk like that. It's not. No, again, these actors, these seiyus are good, but people are just misconstruing like how a foreign country is to them just because they've all just experienced it only through one medium, and they obviously they don't know what the words are saying. They're saying, oh my God, the acting is so profound on this. I'm like, no. You're reading the bottom of the screen and you're picturing the voice in your head of what you want it to hear. That's what's going on. So you don't know where their emphasis on their words are. You don't even know what words they're saying. You can't tell. If I spoke gibberish into a microphone and just put subtitles on the bottom, people would say it was so profound, and I could have made up a language. It wouldn't even be their language, but they'd be like, oh, that's amazing. Wow, he's so fluent. Whatever language he's speaking. Like, bro, I was improving gibberish for 2 hours. What are you talking about? It's the same level. But again, I have my preference times where sometimes I'll like a show prefer over subs or dubs over subs. So it depends on the show, but overall I prefer dubs better because I like hearing stuff in my native language. Like it's just how it is. It's more fun to experience it in English than it is in another language that I don't understand.
I'll say for me personally, I think what you said earlier when you were like, if you really like the show, you'll watch it in Japanese. But if you can wait, you will basically wait. That's me too. I mean, I would prefer to watch it in dub because you can still do other things and still participate in the show. When it's in Japanese, you have to be watching it because you got to know what it's saying with the subtitles and everything. So yep. I get you on that. Which vocal performance would you consider your best?
Would I consider my best? That is pretty hard to think about. I'd say like probably one of my favorite ones would be Rain, just because he has a whole lot of like, he's a really soft-spoken guy, and he has a whole lot of emotional, vulnerable moments in the show where he's talking to the girls, and he's really down on it. So I'm like, damn, it's relatable. Just like me forever. I'm like, Rain was somebody that whenever I went to the booth to record that show, I'm like, man, I'm not acting anymore. This is just therapy. Hold on. Let me just let it all out over here. So that's somebody that's like that. Also, one that I really, really liked doing was Haruto, because Haruto, and I'm actually the strongest, has his clone, and he has a lot of scenes where he talks to his clone. So it's me recording scene from two different angles, talking to myself. And that was really fun and really cool to hear back, of like me just have a conversation with myself and have it sound like two different people.
Yes. And especially like his clone, because his clone be more expressive and be loud. And like, I think that's
really cool. His clone's more of a baby.
Other than voice acting, is there any other type of projects you do, like volunteering or?
I mean, since I just started like full time after all these years, there isn't too much I do. I know I really love writing, so that's something that I'm dabbling on. I've like even released like a short web comic. I only got like 1 or 2 chapters out before like just ran out of resources to get it to come out. So that's something that I actually, now that I have more time on my hands, I am going to make it my New Year's resolution to finish the story for that, at least one volume of that book, and try to release it maybe on Amazon or something like that. Just, it's a nice, fun thing. Like everything I do for fun is basically something linked to creativity anyways. So even when I'm not acting, I'm always doing something that kind of ties back to it in some way, shape, or form.
What was this webcomic about?
It was like a cool, like, what a George Pulte situation, the rivalry of superior versus inferior. It was, like a sci-fi story about like mutants in like a big futuristic city. So yeah, that's something that I'll work on, and maybe I'll release that in some point this year if I can figure out how to do that, because publishing a book is, pretty sure a lot of work, but I'll figure it out.
All right. We're getting close to the end of the interview. We got about 2 more questions. My next question is, do you have any tips on how any amateur can basically get into the field? Like, is there any websites for them to apply, schooling, and what should they expect for their first project?
Well, I would suggest starting on websites like, first and foremost, the Voice Acting Club that's run by Kira Buckland, who's, super duper famous voice actor. She's in a lot of projects. She plays the lead in Nier Automata. She plays the lead in one of the JoJo seasons. Genshin, she's real massive. And so Voice Acting Club is her website. She has I use these tips all the time. And if people comes up to me and any friends like, hey, how much should I charge for this indie project? And I'm like, check out Kira's website. It has all the rules and everything you want to know about the industry on there. It's really great. Casting Call Club is also a place that I've done auditions on before in the past. And you can also go to different websites for learning whatnot. You can listen to Crispin Freeman's Voice Acting Mastery podcast. I want to be a voiceactor.com. There's a lot of different websites you can learn just to, get your foot wet, but starting it off. But yeah, Voice Acting Club and Casting Call Club is a nice way for just new people to just find, like, let's say even just like a free project to get on and figure out, hey, do you even want to do this? Because even though I liked voice acting, I was doing it for a little bit, I didn't fully know, it didn't click with me. I'm like, yeah, this is what I want to do every day, 8 hours a day. Until I had done a project that had so much dialogue that I literally spent like 7 to 8 hours working on it in one day at home. And I'm like, finish it. I'm like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. But also that was super fun. So that's when it clicked for me. So figuring out, just auditioning for as many projects as you can, figuring out what works, figuring out what your vocal range and vocal types are, stuff that you're, more marketable and more competitive on versus other people. Figuring out your strong suits, your strengths and weaknesses would be a good way. Audition for everything you can. And as you go up, you yourself will feel, okay, I am now at a point where I can start charging money, or I'm at a point where I start charging more money or stuff like that. You start developing your own standard for yourself and what's worth your time and what's not. But at first, you just do everything and you get it under your belt. You learn the ropes.
Okay. And for my final question, basically, what's left for you to accomplish in voice acting?
Oh, dude, everything, man, everything left me to accomplish. I have so many goals, set up here. So I want to be in more video games. I want to be in bigger projects, I want to be in a big shonen show one day, and like, maybe voice the shonen protagonist, maybe voice the JRPG protagonist, be in more games, be in bigger games, maybe be in some American AAA games. I have stuff that I want to be. Heck, directing wise, I one day actually just want to direct my own show and see how that feels, being the head director for once and seeing how that turns out. So I have so many goals. And that's the thing that I also love about this is there's never gonna be a dead end. Even when you're at the top of the industry, you're still gonna want more. It's a blessing and a curse because, actors are endlessly hungry. They always grow greedy. They always want more, but there's always something to look forward to, too. You never just reach the top and be like, yeah, I've done everything. I don't need to do anything else anymore. I'm done. You don't hit that point. You're always wanting more. You're always going more. Like, even if you're like, you get old and, you're at the retirement age, technically you could still keep going. There's always like, elderly people in anime or shows in general as well. So those roles don't disappear. You could just keep going until you keel over if you wanted to, or you just kick back and retire. It's up to you. You can go forever.
Okay. This is my last question. This is just something I was thinking about while you were talking. I know you're an introvert. So do you do a lot of cons?
I don't do a lot of conventions. I've done a couple. So those have definitely been interesting experiences. I've done a couple smaller ones. I've not done any like big cons. So I've not fully experienced like, the whole swarm of it. I've been to cons. In fact, I'm going to go to a con like right after we're done here and just to go have fun and walk around a little bit. But I have not done any big cons myself as a guest per se. Hey, in the future, maybe I want to see what that feels like. But no, not yet.
So how does that work? Do they reach out to you or do you reach out to them?
A little bit of both. Just depends. Usually it'd be the convention that reaches out to you, but sometimes you can reach out to them. It just depends. The best way would be like if actual like fans ask the con to reach out to you. That's usually the best way how that works. But yeah, it just all depends on different scenarios and what kind of guests they want, what kind of like demographic that con is for.
All right. Before we go, I just want to thank you for all of your amazing work and for bringing some of our favorite characters to life. And also for coming on. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
And with that, I want to end today's episode. I want to thank my guests for coming on and chatting it up with me. I had a lot of fun. I learned so much more about the industry, and hopefully all you listeners did as well. Before we close out, I just want to let my guests the opportunity to plug themselves, basically tell everybody where they can find you on Twitter, if you have a podcast or anything like that.
Yeah, most things I post about updates on my work go to like my Twitter or Insta. You can follow me there at Kevin D. Thelwell. Website's the same thing, KevinDThelwell.com. And yeah, that's basically where you can all find my stuff.
Is anything out that's about to come out soon that we can hear your voice in, or you can't talk about it?
I mean, nothing that's not out that I can talk about, but like we already said at the beginning, Sandland's coming out in the next few weeks. Definitely check that out. That's super fun. If you want to check out things that I've helped out with, currently helping assistant directing on Sasaki and Peeps and Classroom of the Elite season 3, So those are all really fun shows. And yeah, if you want to catch something that, again, you can hear a lot of my voice in, then, you may want to just check out, like, again, Am I the Strongest Beast Tamer, Ice Blade, or Girlfriend?
All right. And with that, I just want to say peace. And if you guys have any questions or anything, you can guys hit them up with the link below. Peace.